Welcome to It's All in Your Head podcast. I'm Michelle Walker and I'm here with Tara Ray. And this is Welcome to Our World. Hey, Tara.
Hey, Michelle, how are you?
Good. Hey, today we're going to be talking about emotion regulation in our episode 6. What do you think about that, Tara?
I think that we have a lot to talk about where that's concerned.
For sure. So sit back, listen, make your comments. We'd love to hear your questions. We want to know what your thoughts are, and we will answer your questions in our productions as they are appropriate with with what we're talking about for the day. So here we go.
Hello, everyone. We took a week off as a mental health break for ourselves, so we're getting back. Michelle, what did you do in your week off?
Well, we went to Utah to visit kids. And actually, my plan had been to go visit my father for his 81st birthday up in Idaho. I grew up in farm country in Idaho. But there's a huge outbreak in that area of COVID right now because there's a bunch of college students came back to college. And so my family preferred that I not come at that time for my own safety and for theirs. And so I had a video call with everybody and said hello and said happy birthday to my dad. So we weren't sure what to do. I had taken off a bunch of extra days. So we drove out to the desert in southern Utah to a place called Goblin Valley. And I don't know, you might remember this movie. Terry, do you remember the movie called Galaxy Quest with Tim Allen?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, that movie was filmed in Goblin Valley. And it's just desert out there. And then there are these really weird stacks of rock that have just all crop up. They like poke up out of the desert floor, like who knows where they came from. And each of these different stacks of rock look like creatures. I mean, they're just pretty fascinating. They look like little goblins, and they're as far as you can see. Like you can hike through them, and around them. And we hiked down in there and had a day of hiking. And it was actually a lot of fun. It's about 4.5 hours southeast of Salt Lake City. So it was a long drive, but that's what we did. What about you?
Sounds fun. Worked. Looking forward to an opportunity to get a vacation. So I'll be going somewhere next weekend. I'm excited about that. So, but that's been about it for me. Just working.
Well, and it's been a really anxious, stressful time for everybody.
Right.
In the whole country. And I've had this really weird sense of anxiety or something's about to happen that's not good, or I don't know if it's good or bad. What about you?
Same. And because I'm a person who's a little more anxious, I have to really watch kind of what I do and where I go and what I listen to and what I allow to kind of penetrate me at this point.
I'm glad you said that because I have to do the same thing. Like I can't watch the news. I mean, I watch just enough to know what's going on and then I have to stop because the same thing, it just makes me really anxious. And I think that that's probably good advice for anybody that's having problems with that kind of anxiety. What do you think?
Same. And even if you're not having problems, I just know that the whole political climate, everything is a little more anxious anyway. And so to give yourself as much relief as you can, probably take it in small doses. Of course, we all want to know what's going on, but if it's to the point where you actually feel it affecting you, affecting your thought process or affecting your body in any way, then it's time to take a break.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. So that's really good. A good thing to know is just how is it affecting me? Pay attention.
Thank you for joining us for It's All in Your Head podcast. Remember to subscribe, like, share, and please comment. Whatever mental health questions you have, we will be happy to answer them in future podcasts.
So you and I have been through several elections, and This one's
several.
particularly weird, isn't it?
But I think that when you mention it, and I think about how I felt during each election period, I've probably had more anxiety during those times anyway, and it didn't matter what was at stake. It's just because I think for most of us can do better when we have a constant. When change is introduced, there's going to be some kind of reaction to that, whether it's positive change, negative change, whatever it is, we're going to have some kind of reaction to whatever that change is. And so I think that the anxiety, I know I could at least speak for me, that I feel is probably based around just not knowing what's going to happen and then trying to decide what I'm going to do based on what is happening.
Right, for sure. And I think that having come through as many elections as I have, excuse me, being, this year, my 60th year, being through all the elections that I have, you know, um, I think you said it to me most poignantly, is that the president isn't necessarily where a lot of our laws and those kind of things get made. It's more on a local level. And and it is. And so there's this big hype made over who the president is, but life kind of flows on after an election and doesn't necessarily change, a ton. What's more changing and where these laws get made is much more locally.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that was really important to understand too, for people. And the fact that if I don't like how the climate has turned out, I have 4 years from now, I have a voice to change it if I don't
Mm-hmm.
like it.
Which I think we see that a lot in because we're in Georgia, if people didn't know, and it we see a huge shift based on just what is going on in this political climate. I think that there are more people who have gotten out to vote in Georgia this time. I don't know what year they gave it to, but it was more people who got out to vote. I've heard stories of people standing in line to early vote for 7.5 hours. We've seen a shift that may or may not happen because of the counting that's going on. But Georgia has been traditionally a Republican state, and it's looking like it might flip and be a Democratic state for this election. So I think that speaks to so much good. It speaks to the tenacity of the people. It speaks to how people have decided to make sure that their voice is heard and not just to let something quote unquote happen to them. So
Yeah.
I have a lot of faith right now in the political process. I can't watch it because it makes me more anxious, but I do have faith in the process, and this just kind of just let it go. Whenever an announcement is made, it'll be like every other announcement that's been made. Does it has historical significance, but it doesn't make it like we haven't survived before.
Right, right. We get past it, and things don't change dramatically. If they're going to change, they change in a way that's tolerable, generally. And and I think one of the things that's most important to me to understand, that I'm hoping people will understand too, is that when we're voting for a president, what we're looking for is somebody who can manage our money. We're not looking for a moral leader. Our moral leaders are found in our churches. And it seems like that's getting kind of muddy and messed up at times, because I don't think that you can find, maybe we can find somebody who's really good at managing all of our money and an extremely moral person too. And maybe that's what everybody wants. But let's make sure that we understand that what's happening here is we're electing someone to manage all this money that we give them and manage the way that the country's run in that way. At least that's my opinion of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What
Which
do you think about that,
I
Terry?
think I would agree because everything we do costs money.
Mm-hmm.
from the smallest thing in our government to the biggest thing, it all costs money. And we are looking for a person who can manage those things. I remember making a statement the first time President Obama got elected that I said, yes, okay, we're looking at color. He's the first Black president. You know, everyone's excited, but the most important color is green. And we need to be very specific and honest about that as we go forward. And so I think that that still remains the same today, you know, because that's what we need. It takes money to make all these things happen, and we need someone who can manage that money effectively. So I hear you. I hear you, and I believe the same way. And a lot of times the emotion takes over, and those real issues get kind of lost. But I think that again, just everyone speaking through their vote has been an awesome thing, because
I agree.
I went to bed. Yeah, I went to bed thinking, okay, well, we know Georgia's red. And that's, yeah, I did my part. I voted. We don't know what's going to happen, but that's it. And then to wake up and hear that there could be a shift, that's huge. And that is the people speaking. And that's the thing that I love the most. You recognize you have a voice and the power of your voice.
Yeah.
I love that. I just love the fact that that's happened.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you said it to me a little while ago about how the people most affected are the wealthy and the very poor,
Absolutely.
depending on
Absolutely.
what's happening.
And
And
that's true.
mhm. It's
Mhm.
absolutely true. And I know that I did a live broadcast on my personal fan page a while ago and talked about how in a capitalist society, it was it seems that the little guy and people with mental health issues especially were often forgotten and not taken care of. And I got a comment from a guy who said, well, that's what our nonprofit organizations are for, and that they take care of, the people who are in that margin of not being taken care of down there among the mentally ill and things like that. Well, Tara, you and I have worked for a nonprofit, and we know that one year you may get your grant
Mhm.
and be helping some wonderful situation going along, and the next year that grant disappears or it's not offered or
Mhm.
whatever it is, and then suddenly the good work that you've done in this one area can't be continued, and it's kind of spotty and it's back and forth. So I'd really like to see a way that we as a society could take care a little bit more of our mentally ill people
Mhm.
if it's needed more than
And
we
the,
do now.
and the whole thing is that's legislatively run also. Most nonprofit organizations get money from people who get money from the government,
Mm.
who can fund these grants. And so that it just brings it back full circle to this political process, because we know in certain years in past elections, like you said, you and I, that was so funny to me, but it's true. You said we have lived through a lot of elections, and we have. And so because of that, we've seen these trends go back and forth. And I remember a time when there was lots of money available for the mental health system.
Mhm.
That money is no longer available. And it
Mhm.
was directly related to some political processes, and some people being voted out and other people being voted in. And now the money that was spent in that area is no longer being spent in that area. So it's just important to recognize where we are and the reality of the circumstance. I just don't want us to let emotion overshadow what's going on, because I know there's rumors of riots and rumors of this and rumors of that. But the reality is, after the riots, we still have to live.
True. And it's going to change down the road somewhere. Things are going to change anyway
Mhm.
in whatever way you want them to. If you're not happy with how things turned out right now, then give it 4 years, get behind a candidate you believe in. You can change it then. It we don't have to be rude to each other. We don't have to mistreat each other in any way. because this isn't the end because one election didn't go the way I wanted it to go or did go the way I wanted it to go, you know? And so I think that's important because I worry about how people might harm each other just because things didn't go their way, you know?
And it was interesting. I think that earlier this year, maybe it was, you and I did a live or something. And we talked about through our friendship, we've been friends for 5 years. And through our friendship, we had never had a conversation about race.
Never had.
And it was like, it was weird, I guess, maybe to other people, but we had so much other meaningful stuff to talk about because you and I connect on our friendship level in so many different areas. It was something that legitimately never came up. And so I think that that is just making meaningful connection with people who you're like-minded with is also important.
I absolutely agree with that. And I remember being the only Caucasian person at your birthday party. And I
Mhm.
remember being the only African American at my housewarming party. And you know, and sometimes it's a little more mixed than that, but sometimes it's not. But neither of us has ever thought it was an issue, and therefore it never was. And I think that that is the key for people is to make sure that as we're choosing the people that we want to love and be around, we're choosing them based on people who they are inside
Mhm.
and not on anything else other than that commonality and how we connect on the inside. And that's why race never came up between you and I.
Mhm.
And I think it's beautiful. I love it. I love
Me
that about
too.
you.
Me too.
Thank you for joining It's All in Your Head podcast. I just want to remind you to subscribe, like, share, and comment below. Thank you.